Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our Planning, Economic Development, and Land Use Committee meeting. So, we have a busy agenda today. We've got 3 items on our agenda, 2 of which, sure everybody's aware, 2 of which we are looking to move today. 1, we're going to continue our discussion on today and get some more information from members. So, we're going to move on Ordinance 25.101.25 as well as Resolution 130.11.25R. We're going to speak and continue our conversations about the Tudor's Historical District recommendation. So we've got a busy night, so thank you all for being with us today. Thank you. Let's start with, do we have any public comments? Well, actually, no, let me take a step back. My apologies. Can we do roll call, please?
Adams. Valorant.
Here.
Clark. Owie.
Here.
Zamer.
Here.
3 present.
Okay, excellent. So let's get started with public comment, and then we'll jump into our interviews. Can staff please read the first name of the public comment?
Catherine Fahey.
Welcome. Well, welcome, former Councilwoman Fay. How can you know the drill?
Okay. Whoops, forgot about that. I am a former council member, and I'm also a former council member of the district where the Tudor homes are located. I was really pleased when Historic Albany brought that truly exhaustive nomination forth to create a new local historic district of the Holland Avenue Tudors, the 6 homes. Really inside and out telling us all about the architecture and the aesthetics of these gems along Holland Avenue that unfortunately have been deteriorating for the last, well, I guess it's since around 2008, I think, is the last time that they were inhabited. I think that the nomination really covered all the criteria for designating a local historic district. And, you know, I think one of the things I think of is when you go around town, there are certain areas of the city that really stand out for their architectural beauty. And this is one of them. They're not like other areas at all, and they have certain qualities that just everyday residents admire. And, you know, we all need to feel good about where we live. And a beautiful architecture gives you a real sense of pride. And I think that happens with the Holland Avenue Tudors. I've had the pleasure of going in the Tudors, and it's been quite a while ago. I was given a little tour. I can't even remember, you know, the reasons, because there has been ongoing concern about their use. And was truly amazed. There's just almost every facet of these buildings is treated with such care and creativity, really. And my understanding is there's still, these elements still remain. I mean, you can certainly see that from the outside, but they truly need to be restored, and we'd like to see them reused and taken care of. Over the years, as I've served on the council, I heard from many of my constituents about the deterioration of the Tudors. Could be a broken window or a broken door here and there that people notice. And people do walk along that corridor because it connects a couple of neighborhoods, the Helderberg neighborhood and the Delaware Avenue neighborhood, and it, also over to Hudson Park to an extent. So this has been an ongoing issue. My hope is that the council will look carefully at this. We have the Historic Resources Commission, very positive recommendation for this to go forth. You know, this is a historic city. We have so much to be proud of. Every once in a while I'll hear about a building way out west, and it's, you know, a building that was built in the 20th century, and I think, wow, our city, second oldest chartered city in the nation. We have to really build on that. These homes, of course, were built in the 30s, Tudor revival, but you know, if you do take a close look at Historic Albany's beautifully executed nomination, you will learn that the architect is someone who was responsible for over 650 homes here in the city of Albany. It is really something to be celebrated. Getting back real quickly to all the little architectural gems in these buildings, it reminds me, that type of craftsmanship, I think of the people who did that work. Those are oftentimes immigrants who have these, you know, special skills, and they were able to add to the beauty of these homes. And it's a way to remember these people who worked so hard to create these things of great beauty. My hope is that Peacock Company and the city will work together to restore these homes and put them back into better use. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next public comment?
Nancy Goody. Gregory Bell. Sean Morris.
Is that it?
We also have a Jennifer Novak.
Oh, no, never mind.
Oh.
Oh. Thank you for joining us. You've got 5 minutes. And I also just want to make sure, I know we have representatives here from the owners and as well as Historic Association. So when we actually come to speak on that bill, we're going to ask both to come and fill some of the empty chairs, and we'll have a conversation like we did last time. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Michelle Brock, but I'm speaking for Sean Morris. Good evening. My name is Sean Morris. I live at 24 Marinello Terrace, Albany, New York. I'm sorry that I'm unable to be here in person as I'm receiving medical treatment out of town. I thank you for allowing my remarks to be read into the record this evening. I serve on the boards of both Historic Albany Foundation and the Delaware Area Neighborhood Association. I've spoken to this body a few times in recent months about the importance of Jesse Leonard's Tudor houses to the structural and cultural history of our city and to the people who live and work here in Albany. Today, I want to delve a bit into some of the comments made at the last meeting of this committee concerning the designation of this block as an historic district. Number one, the buildings are not even that old. Well, yes, they are. For some context, these buildings are a similar age as many of the buildings in Center Square were when citizens started advocating for the creation of historic districts. In addition, historic districts are not just about age, they designate periods of time and development of city's history. By all standards, these buildings, this district qualifies. Number two, we can't tell an owner what they can do with their property. Of course we can. We have many, many laws that define how property can be used. Every day, the city reviews plans to be sure they conform to the laws that define how property can be used. Through the years, Albany has made many changes to both zoning districts and design overlays to protect both how property is used and how it looks. Just a few years ago, the city changed zoning districts across the city without property owners' permission. Number 3, the buildings are not usable in their current location or design. 2 comments. First, the buildings are stable and the buildings are reusable. The current owners don't want to use them. This property development and management company with the resources to do much better has deliberately let them molder. This is the same kind of landlord neglect that plagues all parts of this city. This is completely and absolutely a self-made hardship on the owner's part. Second, the creation of the historic district does not limit their use to only the original one. If Pequot lacks the imagination to reuse the buildings, they should offer them for sale. Our city faces a housing crisis, while housing across the city lies vacant and underused. Albany has for too long let developers determine what our city looks like and how it functions because we don't utilize and enforce the many planning studies we've conducted. Across the nation, historic cities thrive because the cities have enforceable and enforced plans on preserving and reusing the structures and landscapes that have long defined them. Historic buildings are adapted and used, residential neighborhoods thrive, visitors and tourists contribute to economic success. We can do this, and we can start by preserving this important part of Albany's history. Thank you.
Thank you. Next public comment.
Jennifer Novak.
Thank you for coming today. You've got 5 minutes.
Thanks. I was speaking last time we had this meeting. I am a resident of the Pembroke Triangle. I am also a business owner of Cider Valley Donuts, and I'm about to be a new business owner, hopefully, of St. Joseph's Church. I'm here to say that it is possible, if you designate these a historic building, that it will not only enhance the neighborhood, it will make the neighborhood thrive. I live in a historic district. In the 1980s, it was a derelict neighborhood. They designated it a historic district, and now it's one of the most exclusive neighborhoods in the city, Pembroke Triangle. We're the second safest neighborhood in the city, according to the police. It is an awesome neighborhood to live in, and we all take pride in our historic homes. There was comments that, okay, nobody wants to occupy these buildings, it's too expensive. It's not too expensive. Okay, I have 5 tenants who are ready to buy the building or rent the buildings immediately. Business owners who are well respected in the neighborhood and the city of Albany. Me being one of them. All boutique store owners, unique to our city, that make our city thrive. They have thriving businesses. They would love to take a space in each one of these houses. I looked online because the claim was, oh, well, they've been on the market for years and years. They haven't been on the market since 2021, according to the internet. Okay, so we've got 4 years of just nothing. Okay, my realtor, I know, has inquired about these buildings numerous times over the past 20 years because I've been trying to get in one of these buildings for almost 20 years now. It's a shame to let these buildings go to waste. They're so unique to the area. No other buildings like this exist. Why we would want to tear them down and put up some ugly office building is beyond me. We can put the ugly office building behind them. Utilize these buildings, embrace the history of Albany, embrace the uniqueness of the buildings, bring life to the area, bring businesses that can be utilized by the 3 colleges there. Bring business and life to that area for the VA, for the Delaware neighborhood. It's only a good thing to invest in Albany's history, and architecture is one of the greatest assets this city has. We have people that are willing to invest. Let's get those people on board. It can be done. And if you say there's no money, that's nonsense, because I need $30 million to redo St. Joe's, and we're well on our way to get that in less than a month. There is money, new market tax credits, historic tax credits, big money donors. They're out there. You just need to ask the right questions and find the right people to invest. It's possible. So let's get it together.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Nancy Goody.
Not a problem. Thank you for being here. You've got 5 minutes.
Oh, great. Hi, Nancy Goody. I want to speak in support of the nomination of the Holland Avenue Tudors. I encourage the Planning, Economic Development, and Land Use Committee to support the Historic Resources Commission's Holland Avenue Tudor Historic District recommendation. These homes were designed and constructed by prominent Albany builder Jesse H. Leonard between 1933 and 1937. And designer Josephine Johnston may have had a role in their design. These homes were planned as a cluster of 6 houses, which were to be the beginning of a large development of homes in this area. They are the only planned and constructed residential structures along Holland Avenue and in University Heights. It is unusual to find a grouping of Tudor homes such as these in Albany. Unfortunately, these rare gems have been abandoned by their owner since 2010. That's a lot of years ago now, folks. 2010, think about that. While Historic Albany and the city have encouraged the owner to make these buildings actively used, since then, the owners are mothballing these buildings. The owners boarded them up under order from the city, but their condition is benign neglect. These buildings need to be properly cared for and reused, not left to rot and then be demolished by neglect. In 2010, Historic Albany had the buildings determined to be eligible for listing on the National Register of Historic Places. The listings would make the buildings eligible for New York State and federal historic rehabilitation tax credits, as well as various grants. By creating a local Holland Avenue Tudor historic districts, the buildings will get local recognition, and perhaps a more appropriate owner will be enticed to help these buildings from further deterioration. That's my official statement, but I also just want to let you know, because many of you don't know me, I have a Master's of Science in Historic Preservation from Columbia University, one of the most prominent programs in historic preservation. I also worked for Historic Albany when I first moved to Albany, and I was involved in, unfortunately, having to document the demolition of an arts and crafts building that no longer exists in Albany because the Fort Orange Club decided they needed more parking. A few years later, the Fort Orange Club decided they needed, guess what? More parking! Yay, more parking! And they demolished another historic structure. That's all.
Thank you. Next member from the public.
Gregory Bell. And this is our last speaker.
Thank you, and I just want to make it so for public comments, if you have all your comments, just please address the chair, just address the chair.
Okay.
So, thank you. You've got 5 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Greg Bell. I was one of the first members of the Capitol Hill Architectural Review Commission. So it shows my interest in the historic preservation of Albany going way back. the Capital Architectural Review Commission was before the current situation that we have. I would like to mention the current state of historic buildings in Albany. Just within the last few months, there have been 4 buildings which have disappeared from different reasons, and all of them were very nice historic buildings. 2 were on Broadway and collapsed because of neglect. They were, 1855 buildings built after the big fire, and they just collapsed. Then also in the south end, there was a historic church which had a fire. And then there's the Madison Avenue building near South Swan Street, which, as part of the 4th of July celebration going on after that, a person actually set the building on fire when the street was full of people having come from the fireworks. So we are losing buildings. We need to save what we've got, and the Tudor houses are certainly worthy of preservation. Concerning the idea of whether or not they are marketable and anybody would actually rehab those, I have a lot of experience going back on that topic too. I was involved heavily in bringing about the restoration of Irving Street, and we still own a house on Irving Street. And when I first bought the house, nobody wanted to buy houses and rehab them. I was the very first person to do that on Irving Street. It's only a block long, so it's not that big of a record, but nobody else did it until I came along and did it. Now Irving Street has been, for decades, has been a really wonderful street with people having invested in a very rundown street, because we could see that the buildings had good bones, and there was federal money through the Urban Renewal Agency to be able to help homeowners do that. Compared to Irving Street, I guarantee that the Tudor houses that we're discussing are far more marketable than what Irving Street ever was. And Irving Street has certainly been a major success, and these houses would be also. So I definitely urge you to take the action to designate these buildings. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, was that our last public comment?
Yes, that's our last public comment.
Okay, excellent. Okay, again, this is on our agenda. We've got 2 other bills in front of it, but when that bill goes up, we will have both the owners team and Historic Albany's team on board. Yes. Yes, how good. Did you sign up for public comment? We'll come. We'll get you in there. Just state your name once you come on over.
Hi, I'm Laura Kardowski. I'm a mental health advocate and local photographer, and I definitely see the beauty in the Tudors for many reasons. One being that as a patient with Albany Med at Albany site, I feel like the disability community needs to see beauty around them. And for my dad, who also is a VA client, I feel like the VA center can benefit as well, since it's directly located near it. And as someone who finds a lot of peace and better mental health from seeing the beauty around me, I feel that by preserving these historical buildings, it can enhance the community and really better the disability community, so they see the beauty around them, and these places of significant history can be valued. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, at this point, we're going to close public comment, and we're going to move forward with to ordinance 130.11.25R, the interview and reappointment of Judy Smith Anderson for the Sustainability Commission. Is Judy with us today? Jody, I'm sorry. Come on in, Jody.
Good evening. My name is Jody Smith-Anderson.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, and I apologize for mispronouncing your name. Please just tell us a little bit about why you're interested in renewing your term with the Sustainability Commission.
That's interesting because it's quite a bit of work, so I had to think about it a little bit, but the value of the work is definitely clear. So the reason I want to renew is because we're starting to make some strides with a decarbonization working group and also a biophilia and nature-based working group, which I find exciting. We also have been working on strategic planning so that we can set goals that we can work toward over the course of a year or several years. The work is especially interesting because it is an opportunity to help Albany understand, and this is my role in the work, the interconnectedness of systems. I'm an architect, but I don't believe any decision should be made without understanding how it impacts other systems. And you heard some of that tonight in the voices speaking to the current docket item, where buildings support people, they support health, they support carbon. And so our decarbonization work is talking about history and structure and beauty and jobs and the economy and our carbon future. It's where everything comes together for Albany.
Well, thank you, and I understand how sometimes you have to think it over before you decide to renew, but we appreciate your willingness to come on back. So with that, any questions from committee members? Councilmember Hoey and then Councilmember Adams.
Okay, thank you, Chair, and thank you for reapplying. It's been a long few weeks with budget hearings, and one of the big items is the closing of the landfill. It's projected 2028. Some of the stuff we heard is that with the single stream recycling, things end up in the landfill anyhow, even though we're thinking, at home we're separating things and trying to do things the right way and do the right thing, and then the stuff ends up in the dump. So I don't know how much work the Sustainability Committee has done as far as looking. I know we're doing composting, which I do myself. I got the bin from the city, plus I have a couple of my own bins that barrels, but the stuff about, we were talking about glass, there's really no way to recycle the glass and stuff. So is the committee itself, do you know, you're here so I can ask you, are we looking at some kind of way to, or looking into things that would help us keep the landfill not filled up and maybe get a few more years out of it?
Yeah, so we do have somebody who's very focused on zero waste and is working on zero waste presentations around the city and moving that work forward. And there's talk of composting gatherings where we learn from each other how to compost well. I have a compost bin as well in my tiny backyard, and I use every single scrap of the soil. I think that, and this is my opinion, in my work on sustainability at all different scales, one of the things that we tend to not do enough of is just connecting that need to reduce waste into every single project that we are working on. So if we're building buildings, it's how do you reduce the waste to landfill, and there are many, many ways to do that. If you're talking about hosting a meeting, there are many ways to do that. We haven't educated everyone to think with the mindset of reduce, and it's actually rethink and revision and reduce and reuse and recycle and then compost. because it took 50 years to train everyone to just buy stuff and throw it away. It's going to take 50 years to train everyone to be a little more intelligent about it. It's not easy, and I think a lot of the planning in the Albany Sustainability Commission is seeking support, and whether that support is financial or whether it's just connection and active support from people for a lot of education. And I hope that that's part of what Albany moves forward, is less noise and more actual information.
Do we reach out to the Sustainability Commission, reach out to like schools and stuff? Because what I notice, children will come home and if their parents are doing something, they'll say, hey, have we, and I don't know, that's why I'm asking.
No, that's a fair question. The thing to remember is the Sustainability Commission is mostly volunteer members and then leads in different departments in the cities. So we do work a lot through Jason, who runs sustainability for the city of Albany, and Emma, who is the energy manager for the city. We try and activate things through those departments in the city. It's not that, I mean, as volunteers, we certainly do several things. However, we don't have our own funding. We have to work through the structures of the city government.
Okay, I didn't realize that, and but I know you have one of the most popular. We have more people apply than we have positions. So, but thank you for your work. And if it comes up, I really think maybe we need somehow to get the school district involved also.
I agree.
But thank you for your question, and thank you for reapplying.
No problem.
Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, Jody, for joining us this evening, and thank you for your continued support on the commission. Some of the questions that I had, Councilmember Hoey touched on. Just wanted to also ask, within your time on the commission, have you noticed any areas of improvements that the commission, either by itself or in conjunction with either the council or the city, if there's ways that we can improve any of those issues that you may have seen or witnessed?
I've seen much, is it also, you're asking if I've seen improvement in our work? Or just what needs improvement in our work?
Yes, what have you seen that needs improvement or ways we can improve?
I think we started to create momentum on connecting to events that are in the city of Albany, such as the Tulip Festival, and having presence there, and also changing how the waste is handled there, and providing information about share sites and resources to reduce commoditization of valuable resources. I think more support of that would be great. I think it's also this is my personal opinion, I feel that the Sustainability Commission is a really good place for different departments to help each other understand the impacts of the work that they're doing in their own departments. And I don't think we've explored that quite enough. For example, if we're interested in decarbonizing the city of Albany, well, then we should also be working with transportation. We should also be working with the building officials. We should also be working with waste reduction. So it's never the siloed creations that unfortunately government is built around. And the Sustainability Commission could be the hub that connects things.
Follow-up question. When your commission is having these meetings on important topics, do you normally invite any of those department heads or figures, and do they join, or how often are they a part of these meetings to be aware of some of the activities or thoughts that the commission is putting forth?
Yeah, we have pretty good attendance from sustainability, from energy, from water, from transportation. Then there's a little bit of flex. We only have certain seats available to department heads.
Okay.
And then there's volunteer group. So as we move into, the working groups are fairly new constructs in the last year. And once the working groups get to some initiatives that can be presented, we want to pull in the affected departments, absolutely. And in fact, we've already started that a little bit with decarbonization, trying to work with planning to understand energy use in areas of Albany so that we can target places that are maybe outside the norm and have an excess of energy waste, so that we can help the city to tailor initiatives to move that carbon reduction.
That's great to hear. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions from committee members? Okay, do you have any questions for us? Or any additional comments?
I think I've made most of the comments that I'd like to make. I want to support one statement that was made earlier from a comment, if that's okay.
Sure.
That Albany is an incredibly diverse and beautiful city, and one of the things that has been a tragedy, I'm an architect, people think that I want to cut down trees and build buildings, that I want to remove old buildings and build new ones. The reality is that the fabric of a community grows over time and evolves, and when we lose buildings, we put a hole in that fabric that can be repaired to some extent, but modern zoning doesn't support repair in a way that makes sense to that fabric. We end up with big setbacks in parking lots. If we can save the existing fabric and revision it for how we live today and how we work today, that is one of the most sustainable things we can do. 85% of the buildings that will exist in 2035 already exist today. So we have to focus on existing buildings if we're going to survive, honestly. So, thank you.
Well, thank you, and again, thank you for your many years of service and your willingness to continue the hard work. Thank you. With that said, since this is a reappointment, do I have a motion to move forward Resolution 130.111.25R with a positive recommendation?
I'll make a motion to move Resolution 130.111.25R out of committee with a positive recommendation.
Is there a second?
Se-
I'm going to give that to Adams. So, all in favor? Aye. So it passes with unanimous consent. Thank you. Okay, next we have Ordinance 25-101.25 from Councilmember Anani. So I'm going to give the floor to Councilmember Anani.
Thank you, Chair. It's no secret the city of Albany is in a housing crisis. This council have taken leadership time and time again, whether it was good cause, to inclusionary, to some form of right to counsel. And sometimes when we get opportunity to change zoning, we definitely consider the character of the neighborhood, but also consider neighborhood association and also the impact and historical context. So this ordinance is amending the zoning map of the city of Albany by changing the zoning of 540 Myrtle Avenue from residential 2-unit to residential multi-unit. The parcel is directly adjacent to several parcels which are already zoned RM. The change proposal here has been approved and recommended by the City of Albany Planning Board, but pursuant to general municipal law, it is subject to review by the Albany County Planning Board. I've also reached out to our neighborhood association, a former council member, actually Leah Gobi, who lives next to this property. They have nothing but great things to say about the landlord and a whole host of things. So I urge my colleagues to support this. Thank you.
Okay, I know we also have members from the planning department to speak on this, and the property owner.
Chair, I got a fast question for Councilman Anani. I couldn't hear who you said was the neighbor or former council member?
Yeah, there's actually a former council member, Leah Gobi, who actually lives right
Leah
next
Gobi,
to
got it.
the property, and she's also in support of it. Neighborhood association in support of it. I've walked and talked to a lot of neighbors closer to this property, and they're all in support of this.
Thank you. I couldn't hear it, and I appreciate it.
Okay, so we've got the property owner on Zoom. Do we have that going? Okay, it's still, okay, so it's the attorney?
Yeah.
So it's the attorney of the property owner?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, great. I am not the property owner. My name is Alexandra Pinocchio. I am an associate attorney with Bartlett, Pontiff, Stewart, and Rhodes, and we represent the property owner. And so I am here to answer any questions. I can briefly speak about the project. However, I believe that it's already been touched on. We have gone to the planning board, and I believe that those materials have been forwarded to you. As we said, this application fits with the comprehensive plan for the city. We plan to increase the number of dwelling units if this project is approved, so that way we can meet the housing demands for the city. And what's great about this project is that it will not change the character of the neighborhood. It will not impact greatly any of the public utilities. This is not spot zoning, because as mentioned, we are right on the cusp. We are adjacent to the RN district. We are hoping, as we said, to increase housing opportunities, especially given the proximity to higher education institutions. And we don't believe that this conflicts with any other sections of the city code. We will not be impacting any type of vegetation, wetlands, any environmental concerns, because the property already has pre-existing site development on it. And so I believe we have submitted to the planning board, and I'm happy to resubmit to everyone here, if it has not already been passed along, the site plans describing the square footage of the property as it is, so that you can see it. And so if you have any other questions, I am happy to answer them.
Okay, do you have any questions from committee members? Councilmember Zama.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize if you just mentioned this and I wasn't able to make it out, but can you just briefly, very briefly tell me what the plan is to expand this two-family into a multi-family? Is the owner building behind or up or what?
So as of right now, there will be no site development, but for inside the pre-existing house. And so the house will, my understanding is that the house will not increase in height. It will not increase in the floor plan. They are confining the increase in dwelling units to the pre-existing layout. And so the square footage supports, I believe, up to 5 dwelling units, which would fit within the RM zoning map if it was to change. And so, but there should be no change to the property itself, but for how it is configured internally.
Okay, so the plan is to create 5 units within the existing structure?
Yes, and the floor plan currently would allow that, based on the code.
Okay, I think we have esteemed Brad Glass coming in to help.
I just wanted to clarify for the record. My understanding that it's a 2,500 square foot building plus or minus, which the RM zoning limits to 1 unit per 750 square feet of floor area on average. So to me, I think that adds up to 3 rather than 5. But otherwise, I didn't really have much to add unless council members have questions. I just want to correct that for the record. Unless I'm off on
Okay,
the
obviously,
square
whatever it is, it'll be in accordance to the square footage that what's allowed.
Yeah,
So-
and
okay, so I'll allow the lawyer to answer, and then Councilmember Anani.
Yes, and I apologize if I misspoke. I thought from the floor plans that we could do 5, but the expectation is that whatever, by switching zoning districts to RM, whatever the current square footage allows for is what we will do. There is not any planned site development to change and expand the house as it is. So whatever the code allows is what the applicant plans to do.
Do you have any other follow-up questions, Councilman Zama? And then it's going to go to
No,
Councilmember
not at this time, thanks.
Anani. Okay, thank you. Councilmember Anani?
No, it just, I think what the attorney was saying is that across the street from where 540 is, it's allowed up to 5 units, but ultimately they're going to go in the guidelines of what is already zoned, particularly when it comes to the square footage, like Brad Glass was saying. So again, their goal is to push it to anywhere from 3 to 4, but just saying that across the street, it's allowed up to 5 units.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Howie.
Yeah, thank you. Brad, I just got a fast question for you. I'm reading through number 4 in the recommendation from the planning board. They talk about going to the RM, now the building could be increased to 55, 55 feet. So they can go up 4 stories, is what it says if we zone it RM?
I mean, I think in the very unlikely case that they were to apply to the planning board to tear it down and the planning board were to give that approval, which I think it's not really a financially feasible proposition. I mean, it's already 30-something odd feet tall, and I don't think, given the size of the site, they'd really be able to build anything. I think technically under the zoning, the allowances for RM is 4 stories or 55 feet, so I think that's what that reference is.
In that same paragraph, they say footnote, with the applicable caveat, footnote number 6. And I didn't see a footnote anywhere, so I'm just curious what that footnote, what that caveat is. I don't know if it's important, but
I can pull it up on my phone, but I don't have it.
No worries. I just was curious, but yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any additional questions from committee members or non-committee members to the legal staff or our planning director, Brad Glass? Okay. With that, Brad, did you have any statements that you wanted to say? I mean, I've got here city planning board possible presentation statements.
We had prepared a brief presentation. I think it got lost in the ether. I think Avi and I thought each other were sending it. But I think in this case, this is, I mean, the application was submitted by the applicant. The applicant is here to speak on behalf of their application. So I don't think unless there's any questions, I don't think there's a need for a presentation from planning.
Okay, no problem. Any questions by committee members on this subject for Director Brad? No? Okay. Thank you for being here, Mr. Glass. Thank you. Councilmember Howie.
Yeah, I'd like to move this forward with a positive recommendation, ordinance 25-101-25. I kind of said that backwards, but you get the point, right? If I have a second.
So I'm assuming that's a motion. Is there a second?
Yes, it's a motion.
Second.
Okay, so we've got a first by Councilmember Howie, seconded by Councilmember Samer to move with a positive recommendation, ordinance 25-101-25. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? No. Passes with unanimous consent. Thank you. Thank you to the legal team that came, and thank you to our planning staff that came to explain that. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, committee members.
Thank you, Mr. Anani. Next, we have the review of the Historical Commission's Holland Avenue Tudor Historic Recommendations. At this point, I'd like to ask the property owner and their team to come and take some of our open seats, as well as the Historic Association and their team to come and take some of our empty council members. You can take the council member seats that we have that are open. Take a seat wherever you like. I mean, the goal is to continue the conversation that we started last meeting. We want to set it up in a way where it's open. We can have an open dialogue, and we can ask each other questions if we like. But as well, as always, we keep it civil and respectful, but informative. So I know that the owner has a statement and a presentation. I also know that Historical Association has a statement and presentation. So I'll allow each to go with their presentation. I will start with the owner.
I had signed up to speak during the public comment, so I prepared something. So would you like me to read that, and then we can
Sure, yes,
listen to
yes.
Mr. Albany and then have a dialogue?
Sounds good. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep. So, again, good evening, Chairman and the members of the committee. I'm Nancy Carey Cassidy, and I return here to once again represent the owners of the 6 parcels and structures on Holland Avenue. Since the last time, the members of this committee have been invited to tour the Holland Avenue parcels, and I'm grateful to those who have found the time to be on site to accurately inform their firsthand knowledge of the status and condition of the structures, rather than a characterization by some which is quite dated. I'm also grateful to Councilman Adams for his attempts to bring various parties together in the hope of finding a path to a mutually beneficial resolution regarding the corridor and a reasonable approach to its future, one that is consistent with the city's vision for what is today a mixed-use commercial zone and the realities of the neighborhood dominated by Albany Medical Center and the Veterans Administration Hospital. In advance of this meeting, a written chronology of activities and events involving the owner's efforts were shared with Councilmember Zamer. It was submitted in good faith and with the concurrence of the owners. Following her review, she asked for the ability to share that document with the other committee members. In the event that you have not seen it, we can provide copies to you. The topic regarding the Holland Avenue corridor and structures which are located on its south side have been a topic of community interest for nearly 20 years. The owners repeatedly took steps to seek the relocation, repurpose, and reuse of these structures that are all noted in the chronology. However, they have been unsuccessful. Despite years of efforts that included approaching many well-regarded and interested organizations repeatedly, who today are now seeking to impose their will and priorities without regard or respect for the owner's interests or rights, and are inconsistent with the action taken by this body in 2017, known as Rezone Albany. That multi-year effort was intended to reflect how the city is currently used. The change took effect more than 5 years ago and designated the Holland Avenue corridor as mixed-use commercial. Despite this significant change in zoning, the Holland Avenue structures have received episodic and incidental interest regarding its potential reuse. These casual overtures have failed to include conforming vision or necessary resources required to make these. It's important to underscore a fundamental point that further made these gestures immaterial. The City of Albany designated the area as commercial zone, prohibiting its use as single or multifamily residential occupancy. In June 2024, after a period of more than 15 years of repeated and focused energy and effort, the owners formally requested the ability to safely remove the deteriorating structures, which carry considerable risk to public safety, and pursue redevelopment consistent with the city's vision for the corridor. In August, an application was submitted to Albany Historic Resources Commission to create a new historic district without the support of the sole owners of the property. This isolated action is believed to be unique in the city's history. The action now being contemplated and is before this committee is unfairly and singularly punitive and signals to every owner throughout the city that their ownership rights are not only vulnerable, but additionally subject to an agenda without a plan or rationale for the future. The passion held by those with the alternative point of view is clear, and they've made that known tonight and others. However, passion without a plan is not going to achieve the goals or objectives of the most enthusiastic advocates, be they members of the council, elected officials, activists, neighbors, or an admirer of the aesthetic. Thank you.
Thank you. But I know, Stoke Albany, I think you have a presentation or a statement you want to make, so?
We don't have a formal presentation. There were several questions that were addressed at the last meeting that we just wanted to provide more information on, namely adaptive reuse as an option. Historic listing does not Yes, absolutely. I'm terribly short, yes. Thank you. Well, no, but it's true, so. Historic designation does not prohibit any use of a building. There are buildings of all zoning classifications in historic districts throughout the city. We're not debating the value of one type of use over another. We're talking about the buildings themselves, and adaptive reuse had come up several times in that previous discussion. So we had sent out a packet with a little bit more information about what adaptive reuse is and some of the benefits of that. I won't read it all to you, but you should all have it already. I'm happy to answer questions about it. A few things I just want to highlight is that adaptively reusing historic buildings is often the more economical avenue to reusing that particular parcel, as you already have a building there. You don't need to add as much to it. And there's also more financial incentives for reusing historic buildings because you can couple things like the New York State and the federal rehabilitation tax credits with other grants, whether they're from ESD for commercial properties, grants from housing, community renewal if it's for housing. You can couple them with pretty much anything, NYSERDA programs. So historic designation only increases the amount of financial resources available to reuse buildings on a site. Also, we've been talking a lot about environmental impacts this evening and in a lot of our conversations with what we do. And we say it a lot, the greenest building is the one that is already built. It is very true, there's a lot of embodied energy in the buildings that we have. And reusing a historic building reduces the carbon footprint of a construction project. There's an immense amount of construction waste that goes into the landfills, not just here in the capital region, but everywhere. And reusing historic buildings reduces the amount of material that's going into a landfill. There's a lot more, but I don't need to bore you by reading it. We also sent several examples where buildings were adaptively reused, where there was a larger addition put onto them, and these projects used federal tax credits and other state programs. Unfortunately, I don't know if there were any that were actually in New York State, to use New York grants, but all of these projects used preservation money to adaptively reuse buildings, from a chicken hatchery in Arkansas that got reused into a co-working space with a large addition that was sensitively done, a firehouse, even a church. We have lots of those buildings that need that here in Albany, and a Tudor-style, almost castle-sized building actually in Boston. All of these have much larger additions, so we wanted to provide some examples for how this is actually done in other cities and even small municipalities throughout the country. So I wouldn't say we're necessarily going to be trailblazers by doing that, but this is really becoming the national trend, and there's no reason why Albany should not take advantage of a lot of the things that other cities are doing very well. So those are the only comments that we wanted to add. I think we've made all of our points, and then just to answer any other questions that the council had. Yes.
Okay, sorry. Councilmember Zeman.
Thank you, and thank you both for being here. I know we have a million questions. We probably won't be able to get through them all tonight, but my first question to Historic Albany is, and I asked last time if you have other examples of historic designation being applied where the owner, against the owner's wishes. I think you said maybe 48 Hudson, but I don't think there were any examples. That gives me pause. So that leads me to ask, what do you think would happen? Like, the historic designation is not going to necessarily force the owners to restore the buildings, right?
No. It doesn't force them to do anything.
That's my concern, is like if the historic designation is applied, then what? Then the buildings could still just sit there and rot.
They can still sit there and rot, but it means that any substantial changes to the exterior, so if the buildings were to be demolished, that would need to go before the Historic Resources Commission, which does have a higher burden of whether or not a building should be demolished.
Right. So I guess my point is, if the goal is really to preserve these buildings, I'd like to know that there's been an effort on both sides to really try to get there in a reasonable and practical way. That I don't necessarily, I'm trying to understand how this would actually preserve the buildings. I get it, that they can't be demolished necessarily so easily. I don't want to see these buildings go. I grew up in the city of Albany. It would be devastating to see them go. But there also has to be a practical side to this. And I just wonder if there might be a better way to preserve those buildings.
I think the biggest thing is financial resources. Historic district listing brings eligibility for state and federal grants and the state and New York, or state and federal rehabilitation tax credits, which will cover up to 50% of rehabilitation costs. So if anything's going to be done with these buildings, this brings the assets to the table.
So do you think that by designating this district historic and these buildings, that it will make them more marketable?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, I'd like to.
I'm sorry, ma'am, can you use
would you
the-
mind speaking into your mic?
Yes, please, thank you.
I would say it makes them less marketable because it's another layer of burden for someone.
I certainly have heard that sentiment as well.
If I may, I think it's just different interests. I think there are people that definitely do not want to do projects in historic districts. However, there are people that like to do projects only in historic districts. We've met with several developers that do different levels of housing and adaptive reuse projects that are really interested in doing more work in downtown. There's one Manhattan developer that's very interested in coming to Albany now that there's potentially $200 million coming into downtown to do buildings, and they exclusively do tax credit, historic tax credit projects. So I think it depends on the market.
Have
who you're
you,
looking for.
I don't mean to be putting you on the spot. I don't expect you to be aware of all of these, but like some of those developers that you're talking about that might have interest, have you sent them in the direction of the Tudors, or I guess I'm wondering. Yes.
Yes, I send everyone.
Have you gotten
No
outreach?
one's given me any information about anyone who'd be interested in the adaptive reuse.
I'm happy to follow up to see who reached out of the recommendations
well,
I've had recently.
that's promising. And are you still open to the possibility of?
I'd have to hear what they have to say, but so far no one's introduced them to us.
Okay, but
Councilman Adams tried to set up a joint meeting between us and Historic Albany in January, and we were turned down.
Why is that?
That's not correct. When we were invited to meet, we attended. We had discussed getting access to the building because the conversation we had was to produce apples to apples comparison of what the rehabilitation costs for these buildings would be. And we had said to be able to produce that, we would need to be able to bring actual people into the building to see them. You can't just assume costs based on the outside of a building. So we had said we would need to bring a small team of architects and or engineers in. We provided a list of the professionals that we would bring, and we were told that in order to gain access, we had to drop this nomination.
We said if they would pause the nomination, we would withdraw our demolition application at the same time.
It's reasonable.
And that's what we were told, not interested. Actually, the councilman was told.
Councilor Adams, if you want to, I don't mean to monopolize everyone's time, just.
No, this is dialogue, and I appreciate the dialogue.
Yeah, just to
Councilman
jump in.
Adams.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to jump in, that was the conversation back at that time, to be able to get access, to be able to put eyes on the building, to be able to provide that team to come in through the communication efforts. From my point of view, it seems like well, what Nancy said, which you, in terms of dropping the application, if they would drop the application in order to have them come in, and I think from there the conversation kind of fell to the wayside. So the situation just kind of continued to move, and I'm not sure exactly where each side left off from there, because for months, at least I was expecting more of a communication back as to when something was going, or when people were going to be able to get access, because just like we were granted access to the property, the same thing would have been afforded to them. But again, this seemed like to me a good faith effort to say, you know, if you pause, we'll try to, you know, slow things down and allow you to see what was going on to paint a better picture. Again, since then, I'm not sure where things have left off on their end, but some of the questions that you mentioned, Councilmember Zamber, are pertinent questions that matter right now in terms of the reality of the situation and kind of where we find ourselves in at this current moment. So for me, my question tonight was still if there was or has been any other resources provided or connections, you know, provided to PCOT to be able to see the alternatives as to what is being discussed. I feel like without that, it's still a back and forth conversation that kind of just continues to revolve. My personal opinion about this matter is, from meeting with both sides, it seems like this is PCOT has their vision as to how and what they want to put on that parcel, which is completely opposite from what is being presented. So that is one of the biggest hurdles right here, is that there's two different visions for the parcel. One wants to preserve, one still wants to create and put something there, but the vision of what's going there is not aligning. And for me, again, I agree with the sentiment of, one, these buildings are, in good condition, rehabitable condition, without a doubt. But when the person that owns the property is not interested in doing any of these things, it becomes a problem, because now it seems like we're going to force their hand in terms of making a decision to go along with the preservation and not following along with their goals and vision of this parcel. And my concern was similar to Councilmember Zama's concern, is the changing of the designation still is not going to force them to do anything with this property. And I would really, really hate to see this property continue to sit here for another decade, unattended, uninhabited, and everything else around the neighborhood is growing and changing, to the point where, as Nancy mentioned, this corridor now, within the last 10 years, and definitely within the last 5 to 6 years, has become a commercial district. So that's also a point of concern, because we made these changes years ago to the zoning, and within that, that's only been about 6 years. So I'm looking from the standpoint of, well, that's a short amount of time to still do a project. You are working towards figuring out your architectural plans, your site plans, your financing, all the different things to be able to get to a point. And it seems like when they got to a point to move forward with the project, things were cut short by this. So I'm trying to, again, be bipartisan in this situation and just really try to find a common ground where both parties can be able to exist, in terms of, if you have the resources, the information that we have been discussing on Historic Albany side, that can be provided to this group for them to look at and have a knowledgeable consideration of it, I think that would be the next best step, but it seems like we still haven't got there yet. And so to push forward without having both sides be aware of the resources and the capabilities just seems still one-sided or unfair. So I'm not sure how this conversation necessarily moves forward, because as I mentioned, it seems like both parties are on different perspectives on this matter, but I'm interested in getting an update on what are the next steps, what's feasible here, before we have to make a formal vote on this. So I'll stop there if anyone else has any questions or comments to make.
Okay. I'll let the Historic Albany answer any, I know some of the questions came towards you. If you want to answer some of those questions, and then I will also allow the owners team to answer any of those questions. I think one question I'd like to add to it is how can we move forward? Because it's very clear that there's not a lot of trust in between these two parties, and if there is an opportunity to move forward, it means there needs to be a little bit of trust and maybe a little bit of vulnerability opening up on both ends. So I'm going to allow Historic Albany to go first, and then the owners team.
We met with a group of the owners and some representatives from P-Cut companies in 2018. We walked through the buildings with one or two of our architects and members of the planning department. We discussed options for the building's reuse. We gave them lists of uses that fit within the current zoning, tax credit information, grant information. Our architect even put together, yes, it was a doodle. Was it a full rendering? No. It was a sketch of a concept for a larger mixed-use building that would be behind these buildings, ways to connect these buildings to get them ADA compliant, as that was a question at the time. So we have provided all of that. We're always happy to sit at the table with someone and have an honest conversation about resources. I do it every day. That is actually my job. So I'm happy to have that conversation and provide all of that information again. I would say, though, in the interest, I don't like to waste other people's time. If there has to be an interest in that, I'm happy to provide that information, but there does have to be a desire to want that information as well. Being told to drop designation, that doesn't stop them from doing anything in order to gain access to assess the building to give them free architectural services, that's not good faith in our opinion.
Okay, the owners team, please.
We met with Rhea Clark. I'm happy to provide them.
I run the company that manages the property, and I was not given that information. So if you have it, I'm happy to accept it, and I will share it with the other members.
I'm more than happy. The meeting was actually called by Rhea, so we were there at her request.
Okay, and we're talking about, I'm sorry, we're talking
Rhea
about...
Talking about
2000... No, we're talking about like 7 years ago?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
8 years ago?
Yes.
So I'm going to ask something
Might be
just
time for a new meeting.
just for full disclosure. I'm going to ask if that information can also be shared with committee members so that everyone has the same information, just like any information that's being shared by the owners team to committee members, if they can be shared with everybody. I think it's important that everybody has all of the information that everybody's looking at, so we can get through some of these difficult conversations by having the same data and the same info in front of us. Is there any addition that wants to be added by the owners team?
If you don't mind, Chairman, I just want to expand a little bit on what Ms. Carey has offered and respond to some of the comments from Councilperson Adams and Zamer. I think you both hit on an important point, which is the limits of what a historic designation can do here. You mentioned trying to find common ground, common agreement between the parties. And as hard as it is, I think there is one thing that both sides on this issue would agree with, which is that the present status quo is not acceptable when it comes to the Tudors. Right now, and for many years, they've been vacant and occupied. The property is being put to no productive use whatsoever. It's an attractive nuisance for trespassers and vandals, and as each year goes by, the condition gets worse and worse. The problem is that the proposed historic designation is not going to solve that problem. Historic designation, in my view, works when it's sought by the owner as part of an owner's plan to try and rehabilitate and reuse the properties, provides access to grants, tax credits. That's not where we are. You know, over the years, the owners have certainly considered their options, including potential rehabilitation. It's been 10 years, and so far, nothing has come across the owner's consideration that has been an acceptable alternative to their desired approach, which is to redevelop the property for a use consistent with the city's current zoning for the area and consistent with the commercial medical corridor that is currently Holland Avenue. The owners, I believe, will always be willing to listen, right? But there's two things. If this historic designation goes through, it will stop or at least make more difficult the demolition, but it's not going to result in the rehabilitation or the reuse of the Tudors. So the only thing it will be preserving is the same status quo that nobody seems to be happy with. Next year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, the buildings will continue to be unoccupied, no productive use, and continuing to deteriorate. The other consideration is the owner has been willing to listen, entertain ideas, but if this designation is foisted upon the owners over their objection, I cannot imagine that their willingness to listen is going to get better. You know, this is, again, not something that the owners have sought. This is something that's being potentially imposed upon them over their objection. So my concern is that if this designation goes through, there'll be an historic district, but the same status quo that's been in place for the last 10 to 15 years will continue for the next 10 to 15 years. And it's not going to accomplish anybody's goals, which is to change one way or the other what the current status is.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Hoey.
Thank you, Chair. I don't even know where to start. I mean, we don't want another central warehouse on Holland Avenue, and that's, you know, and we've seen that. People came in, we're going to make promises about central warehouse, and it's a $20 million tear down, 22. Some of the questions I got, is there asbestos in those buildings? They were built in the 30s and...
There is some.
Okay. What about lead paint?
There are some.
So that would have to be, both would have to be remediated.
As part of
Correct.
a demolition or
Sure.
as part of a renovation.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to ask, and I know Brad maybe can answer, but the commercial, being zoned commercial, does that mean that residents, it can't be, like, people can't live there? Or what does that designation mean when you, it's commercial?
Well, Brad would probably be an expert on it, but our engineers and architects have told us that they cannot be used as one-family or two-family residences.
Okay, because we heard a lot of comments, people saying, I want to move in, fix it up, and live there.
They can't.
But if the area is zoned commercial, can they do that? We'd have to change the zoning, not only put in the storage.
Can we, I'm sorry,
Okay, and
since we have Brad here, can he just clarify that? Brad, just since you're here?
Officially, or?
I mean, we've got everybody here, let's have the conversation. And thank you for staying for this, Brad.
Yeah, sure. I believe the properties are currently zoned mixed-use community urban, so that does allow some residential uses. What it doesn't allow is low-density residential uses. So absent some change to the zoning by the Common Council to allow such uses as 1, 2, and 3 family dwellings, that currently wouldn't be a allowable reuse of the properties.
And
Now,
how
Brad-
difficult would it be to change that? Oh, I'm sorry.
Well,
Councilmember Holland.
But if you, say we did that, we changed it where it would be allowed, then what happens if, because they have property behind that they're looking at, if they wanted to put up like a medical building or something like that, Would changing the zoning on these impact the ability to put up something? Because when you're zoning, you're not just zoning buildings, you're zoning like a parcel, like a larger parcel, the way I understand it.
I mean, no, it would probably be, I mean, similar to what was done, the College of St. Rose, the MUCI district. We added 1, 2, and 3 family dwellings as a permissible use in that district due to the fact that the college was vacating the property and that some of those, the original uses for those properties were of a lower density that may be attractive reuse for those properties, something that couldn't have been anticipated at the time. So I don't think it takes anything away in terms of allowable uses of the property if that were.
But we would have to go through the process of changing the zoning.
I mean, there was a theory when we created those zoning districts that there were principally commercial areas, so that the idea moving forward may be encouraging uses, residential, commercial, of a higher density. So there was, you could look at it in one way or another.
Okay. Go ahead.
Councilman,
Right.
are you done with your questions, Councilman Hoey? Okay.
It's a follow-up to.
Councilmember
it's-
Zeman.
I could write it down so I don't forget it, but, so, for example, in Council Member Adams, in your district on Delaware Ave, next to Hackett Middle School, where they kept the integrity of the front of, when they, right? But built apartments behind it, right? So something like that would be allowable under the current zoning, or it would take, on Holland Avenue, or would take some tweaking by
Under the
council?
current zoning, something of that physical configuration would be allowed, but the uses of this residential buildings that we're talking about now would have to be used for some other purpose than 1, 2, or 3 family dwellings.
Like
So
offices?
they could be a
or,
complementary use to the.
offices, could it be something attached to a residential apartment building?
It could be a part of that larger
Part of that
development.
building?
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you. And, yeah, I'm just going to throw it out there, Chair, because you've taught me over the years the value even of compromise. Is there a compromise that would be possible? Could we keep one, maybe 2 of the buildings, and then the other ones put up the building, what your corporation wants to see, medical or whatever be it? Is that something you think the owners would consider? And that we could just move from that point, not do historic, let's just do 1 or 2 and do the development. I don't know if they'd be open to that, and that's what I'm throwing out on the floor.
And what would the use of those 1 or 2 be?
Like we just said, maybe doctors' offices or,
You've been in them. They would
Yeah.
never meet ADA requirements for a doctor's office.
Might I interject?
Go ahead.
All right.
So I think
that
I
maybe we
would
can-
certainly present it, but I'd need a little bit more definition of what it is.
I would
Councilmember
ask
Seaman?
that we can continue the conversations and not just sort of throw random ideas around, but actually get some information and data about what has been done in locations similar to that, or we can continue these conversations, but we're obviously not going to figure it out tonight.
So luckily, we have another day and we have more time. I just wanted to clarify with Brad, if we wanted to rezone those specific properties so that it can be residential, that's something we could do. Just want to clarify that.
I would not encourage rezoning the properties. If the council were to make any adjustment, it would be adjusting the existing zoning designation to allow more uses than aren't currently allowed. But again, that's balancing against the overall philosophy of what the future intended uses for the district are.
Could we extend the use so that it's residential? So those properties could be used as residential?
Yes, yes. So Deb was just saying, yes, it can be residential provided that it's a multifamily use or some higher density use. What it can't be under the current zoning is 1, 2, or three-family dwelling. So the reuse of the buildings as they were originally constructed is not allowed in the current zoning. That zoning could be adjusted to add those uses as an allowable use. It would not just apply to that parcel, it would apply to all properties within MU, CU zones throughout the city.
Okay.
So it would provide additional use options for those properties.
So it would mean properties that can be big box properties can also be 1 or 2 unit properties. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. So then it would be the determination of the investor and the parcel owner how they use that property. Okay.
It could be a residential apartment building.
Yes. Councilmember Holly.
And, you know, something that came up, and I got to ask Brad because he was probably here. Why did we change the zoning? Did the owners ask for the zoning to change from residential to commercial? What was the idea, or who pushed that idea? Because obviously, they knew there were single-family homes there, and why would we change the zoning when there's existing homes there? I think it was before my time. I don't believe I was on the council when this happened.
No, Walgreens predated, you know, so the zoning was amended citywide in 2017. It was the first overhaul of our zoning code in 49 years, and it created all new districts. So we had to draw a line somewhere, and I think in this particular case, it is mostly commercial property of the like that an MUCU district would support. These properties are an island unto themselves, and I think, you know, with the overall philosophy of this is a higher density commercial uses district, in most cases where that exists, you want to see properties with a higher valuation of land, of higher density in that particular area. And when you're zoning an entire city, sometimes you miss certain anomalies like these houses. Whether that was the right decision or not, I think that's generally why it happened.
And did anybody speak up when this happened? I mean, did Historic Albany come when this was rezoned from residential to commercial, or was that under the radar and nobody caught it? I'm just curious.
I don't want to say definitively one way or the other. I can't remember
Sure.
everyone that spoke on the rezoning, but.
But the owners of the property, did they, and I don't know, did they complain?
We did not request the rezoning. We were informed of it as part of the complete rezone Albany, but it didn't come at our request.
Did you push back at all when that happened?
I'm not sure we realized that it excluded the existing uses at the time.
Okay.
So as Brad said, that was the entire city of Albany being rezoned.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from committee members? Okay. So before I allow final statements, I know there's a statement by Councilmember Hyde that he asked that be read. He wasn't able to make it today.
I apologize to my colleagues and the public for being unable to attend tonight. Historic district classifications have always come at the request or support of the property owners. The property owners did not make this request and are opposed to the classification. I do not believe the Common Council should be in the business of forcing a historic district classification, and I am not in support of the designation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, we have one more planning meeting in December that's already packed as packed can be. We're probably going to end this unless we could squeeze another day in to the calendar. I would like to recommend that both parties try to have some type of communication, especially if we're trying to share some information at this point. I think it's important. I think it's important that the owners share what was shared with committee members, and I think it's important that the Historic Association shares with the owners the information that, and the work that they did in 2018 to try to address some of these concerns. I also, going to say publicly, I'm a strong believer. I think everyone should get in these buildings and see them. You know, I think that's important. I think it's important for us all to be able to get in and see the buildings together. You know, so I'm saying that publicly just because I think it would make it easier when we're having these conversations to have everything open in the public. This may go on to the next administration. So we may be dealing with this with a whole new council and a whole new administration in front of us. So, you know, so when we're talking about a time frame, this may take a lot longer at this point now, just because of where we are. So if we can get everyone in the room and try to figure it out, I think that may be the best and quickest solution for everyone involved. So that was
Respectfully, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
There's a committee of 5. I know 4 members have gone and looked at it without any noise. By ourselves, went in and looked, and there's 1 member of the committee didn't. And I respectfully think that that's not good. That's not a good for the committee, for the council, that, you know, there should be no conditions. Just go and look. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you, sir.
Well, just for transparency, I'm the one committee member that has not gone and seen it, just for transparency. I have stated to the ownership team that I'm willing to go see it, but I've asked, just for full transparency, that if I go see it, that I'd have both parties in the room when they're showing me what they're showing me. Just because I want to be able to hear both sides of what is in front of me, and not just one perspective. So I've asked for that, and if that is something that the ownership team is willing to work with me on, I am more than willing to see the building. I just want to make sure I've got both perspectives in the room when we're looking at what we're looking at. You know, so that's my humble condition. I think it's a fair condition because I think it allows me to hear from the owners team, as well as it allows me to hear from the Historic Association team of what I'm looking at. Can these beams be saved? Can this foundation, is this foundation savable? Is this wall savable? Yes or no? So if I'm hearing no from one person, I want to hear no from both, or I want to hear, well, maybe we can do this or we can't do that. So that's the reason why I haven't. You know, if there's some willingness to work on that, I'm more than willing. I am not afraid. I am not afraid of going into messed up, roughed up, and tough buildings. I have rehabbed quite a few myself. I have put on some dirt, and I have picked up some mess. So it's not that I'm concerned with what I might see. I just want to make sure that I get both perspectives as I'm seeing what I'm seeing.
If I can just address that very quickly, Chairman. When we offered the site visits to the other council members, committee members, the way it was run, as I understand it, was there was no narrative, there was no lobbying. It was simply somebody from PCOT met them at the property, opened the door.
It was a property manager just opened them up.
Right,
because
walked
they're-
through them,
let
and
the
then when they were
members walk
satisfied,
through.
they left. So a lot of the questions that you're framing, that you might have as you walk through, I don't know that either, you know, Historic Albany or we would be in a position to answer them. So it sounds like a lot of engineering questions. So again, if we were to afford you the same type of access that we afforded to the other committee members, it would simply be, here it is, walk around, look around, take pictures. We'll walk with you to make sure you don't get lost, not that they're that big. And then when you're done, we'll lock up behind you. So, you know, I think obviously we'd be happy to offer you that same access. The idea that you would have, you know, 2 parties on your shoulders offering you different perspectives and viewpoints and answering questions or lobbying, I'm not sure it's really set up or designed for that. I don't know, Council, those who took the tour, was
Yeah,
that?
no, absolutely. It was literally, there wasn't like an expert showing me around. It was a property manager, and Paul was there, and that was it.
Yeah, for me, I actually came a little bit more prepared. I brought a contractor with me, so someone that has construction background, engineering background. We were able to go down to the basement, see the foundation, look at the walls, you know, see the stability of the home, to be able to get a more knowledgeable understanding of the home and its condition. So that's kind of what I did. But again, you know, whatever works for you.
I appreciate that, and again, the offer is still open. I'm more than willing to take a tour. I just asked that I can have someone from the other side of the perspective also there. And I honestly, to be 100% honest, I actually think it'd be better if you guys opened it up and allowed the other side to see it fully, so that there's no different views of what's actually there. As someone that hasn't seen it, I can tell you, I don't know what you see. I know what I've seen based on the pictures, and I know they've seen what they've seen in 2018. So I think if you allow everyone a fresh view, it would make maybe for a more comprehensive view. And that's again with someone that hasn't seen what is currently there hands-on. So I'm going based on what I saw on pictures and what I've heard from my colleagues. So with that, are there any other questions from committee members?
Motion to adjourn.
Well, before we adjourn, before we adjourn, I'd like to give both parties, if they wish to make any final statements before we adjourn. Does anyone want to make any final statements? No? No? Okay. Well,
Thank you for your time.
well, with that said, I've got a motion to adjourn from Councilmember Hoey, seconded from Councilmember Seymour. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No? Okay, so this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your time, and